And we are live. Woo. Okay, we're coming again with that little theme song. We're live. Hey, how you doing? This is Tony Jackson. You have tuned into the Real Money Coach Show live stream on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And so I'm glad that you are here tonight. Make sure that you put in the chat. You know how we do this. Put in the chat where you are watching from, what part of the country, what state, what part of the world are you in. Make sure that you put that in there so that we know that you're tuned in and watching our show this evening. It's going to be a lovely show. I have two lovely people that are going to be on the show tonight. And one of them you already know. She's here every week. It is my wife's best friend, my very, very close friend, Michelle Mitchell, will be here as our co-host, consistent every week. Benita from Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you for being here, Dr. Benita. Charles Rainey from California. Thank you for being here as well. We are excited and we're so glad that you join us each and every week. This has been and is Life Insurance Awareness Month. Life Insurance Awareness Month. And so I've been talking a lot about life insurance. If you've been catching the radio show, which let me remind you, if you're local, the radio show comes on 7:30 Saturday mornings on 100.9 here in Charlotte, 100.9 Praise 100. Now, also, for those of you who may not rise that early in the morning, it's also released as a podcast. And the podcast is available on wherever you get your podcasts. We're talking Apple, we're talking Spotify, we're talking Google, we're talking Pandora. Sorry about that, Charles. And also want to just welcome the other folks that I see here now. We got Ruth Bell. Thank you for being here, Ruth Bell. Marlon Smith is tuning in tonight. Marlon, thank you for tuning in tonight as well. And so, as I was mentioning, the podcast is available, of course, it's a podcast, so it's available 24/7. There's also on YouTube. And so if you're joining us some way other than YouTube, or if you are joining us by YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm doing more and more posts during the week. Little snippets, little shorts, so that people can get little bits of information. You may have saw our guest tonight, Dr. Sydney McKinney. I did put a little short out there on YouTube when she did a little interview with me not too long ago. And that also aired on our radio show on Saturday. So let me remind you of this as well. Because of popular demand and so many people had registered before, I am doing the GoFundMe Ain't Life Insurance webinar again this week. That's going to be Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. GoFundMe Ain't Life Insurance. And we'll have that flyer pop up here momentarily. There's a QR code. You can simply scan the code to register, or you simply will go to TonyJacksonWebinar.com to register. Now, what we go over in the life insurance or GoFundMe life insurance, it's not just about the GoFundMes and the number of those, but we also will talk about different types of insurance. We'll talk about how much insurance you need. We'll go into that whole thing, what whole life versus term. We'll go into the cash value, different things that you can do. We'll talk about the living benefits. So we'll talk about all those things to kind of give a very well-rounded educational experience as it relates to life insurance. So we'll do that. And so right now, let me do this. Let me bring my co-host on, Mrs. Michelle Mitchell.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, Michelle, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Michelle, let me tell you something. I was a good boy today.
You were.
I was a really good boy today.
What'd you do?
I talked to your husband today.
Oh, yes, you did.
And I didn't even bring up Michigan State. I didn't even bring it up.
Hilarious.
I was a good boy.
You were.
I didn't even break.
You had to restrain.
I had to restrain.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, man, all of my Michigan State friends has been like crickets, right? With all this going on. But it's really a sad situation.
It really is.
And I feel really bad about it because you had this brother who's, and he was doing, a good job at state.
Yeah.
So it was too bad. It'd be interesting. It might be interesting to have a little conversation about our guest about that tonight because Dr. Sydney McKinney is the executive director of the National Black Women's Justice Institute, right?
Okay.
And so yeah. Look, Dr. Benita says she loves your hair.
Thank you.
Yeah, see there? You come on the show and get some compliments and all that.
I'm trying to get ready for my trip.
You get ready for your trip.
To Texas.
To Texas. Oh, so tell us a little bit about the Viral Networking Conference that you're going to be.
Yes.
It's coming up in like 2 weeks, right?
Yes, it's like 2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. The Viral Networking Conference is October 4th through the 6th in Houston, Texas. It's an in-person conference where we've had Tony Harris-Taylor on the show
a couple times
now, right? And she puts on this conference every year, which is really good, where you have a bunch of business owners in the room. And her whole thing is about networking and creating space. Yeah, that's one of her viral networking books. Yep, make drastic results. And I attended her after she was on the show last year. The first time I attended the virtual part of her conference. And when I tell you, she reiterates making appointments with people on the spot. Like I walked away with probably 10 or 12 appointments on my calendar and I was virtual.
Yeah.
So this year I will be one of the speakers at the conference. I think I'm speaking on day 2. Okay. So I'm really excited about it.
You're like a sponsor. I mean,
I'm a sponsor of the conference. So I should have had the link. I'll get the links just in case, if you want information about how to build your business and business growth, you need to attend the conference. Like you need to be there. Like, and we were looking at flights just the other day. Southwest Airlines will get you there for about $150 or roundabout there.
And she got a good,
and she got a really good deal on the hotel for $97 a night. So it is worth the effort of going just to be in a room with other business owners, and me.
And you. They meet you in Houston.
Yes, meet me in Houston.
And the thing about it is Tony's for real. I mean, I love Tony. I love her approach in terms of, because one of the things, and I talked about this with her a couple times, is you go to these business meetings and you with this wad of cards, right? And then you got to follow up on the cards and all this kind of stuff. And that just, for me, just to walk away with appointments rather than contacts, right? Is pretty major. And
pretty major, and it breaks down a barrier a lot of times, and her approach is so approachable. Like she was like, put your link out there, get your QR code ready, take a picture, book that appointment. She's always encouraging you to take drastic steps, right?
Yeah.
Be drastic. Cool. Yeah.
Well, we got this little one coming.
That's right.
Yeah, we got the little one.
Any day.
Any day now. Due date is at the end of the week. And so we shall see. It's so funny because it's football season, so I'm all geared to football, right? And so we were talking. Lisa and I were talking last night. It was like, well, it's like, wow, your grandson's gonna be born in Ohio. And I said, I wonder if they could go to a hospital in Kentucky, cross the river.
Right, it's so close to Kentucky, right?
And then and so Lisa's teased me, said, TJ's probably gonna become an Ohio State fan. I said, oh no,
Mhm.
we ain't
That
gonna lie.
can't happen.
Huh?
That can't happen.
No, it won't. With him, it won't happen for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He bleeds maize and blue just like me. So
Yes. Okay.
So, Michelle, you attended the last GoFundMe's Not Life Insurance,
Yes.
and would you recommend it? What was your
Oh,
thought?
absolutely. Absolutely. It's really good information. And I would encourage anyone who has attended, like invite someone and invite a young person to attend, because the sooner we can get this information to them, the more it can work in their life.
Absolutely, 100%. And
So,
one of the things, now that you mentioned that, go for those of you, go back to YouTube, go back to the podcast and listen to the show from last Saturday, because I had two young folks on with me getting their take on life insurance.
nice.
And so it was a great conversation with Tiasia Royster, who is my engineer at the radio station, and there's an intern there, Waylon, and we just had a great conversation since you brought that up. That
Yeah.
100%. And so, and I know that we'll scroll that on the bottom before we're done to make sure that people can register, and it's free. And I
Yeah.
think for this session already, we have about 60 people who have registered. And
That's
so
good.
there's plenty of room for everyone. And I think too, even if you have not, even if you attended before, because we do want people to ask questions and all those
Hmm.
types of things.
Which
To
that is really good. What you do, allow people, like I teach that way too. Allow people to ask their questions so they can get a real answer to their
right.
specific question. Yeah. I
Well,
like
and I think when you do that, it makes it more relevant for people.
that. Hmm.
And it also, the other thing that it does, it's not the same material, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's a little different. You get a little different
Hmm.
twist and that type of thing. So yeah, so we just want to encourage everyone to do that. And again, this is part of September being Life Insurance Awareness Month.
Yes.
Now, the other thing, Michelle, that you have heard me talk about, and we're going to talk a little bit about it tonight. And I want to just kind of tell people about this thing called KaiZen, right? So,
Yes.
KaiZen is pretty powerful. It's
It
powerful if you're
is.
using other
It's
people's money. Really, it's a 3-to-1 match.
yeah,
So,
it's amazing how it
where the
works.
client puts in,
Yeah.
the bank is putting in 3.
Hmm.
And the other thing is that on the back end of all of that, you get all of this money coming out income tax free.
Yes.
Pretty powerful concept.
Pretty
So
powerful.
with our guest tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about something that I learned from you that I shared with her that
Okay.
was life changing, right?
Okay.
So we're
Yes.
going to do that. So let's do this. Let's bring in Dr. Sydney McKinney. She is the executive director of the National Black Women's Justice Institute. She was born and raised, guess where?
Where?
Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Really?
Ypsilanti, Michigan. She nails New York. She's got all
Michigander.
kinds of degrees. She's got degrees upon degrees upon degrees, and she is Dr. Sydney. How are you tonight?
Hi, how are you? That was
Welcome.
amazing. I've never gotten that kind of applause from the Oscars before.
Well, you deserve it.
I
You
do.
deserve it.
I'm
So
from
there you
Michigan. Of
go.
course I do.
Yeah. So we got all Michiganders on the phone.
Oh Lord.
Dante. Man,
Dante, don't
It's
Dante.
amazing.
he's got no shame in the game, right? So he knows where I am. So, and Sydney's a big Michigan fan too, growing up in the Ann Arbor area. What high school did you go to?
I went to Green Hills. It's a private high school, not too
Okay,
far from here on.
not too far from here. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So we got all Michigan people on the call tonight. So
Yay.
Very cool.
met, Michelle is from Michigan. We actually met at Western as freshmen, our freshman year in college. So yeah, so you were probably running around in diapers or whatever. But but Michelle and I met, and then her and my wife became besties. They're best friends.
Yes.
And they are tight. So our families have done life together for 30 years. You know, we were in their wedding, they were in our wedding 31 years ago, all that kind of stuff. So we got all Michigan crew tonight. And so if you are from Michigan, put it in the chat if you're watching from Michigan tonight so that we know that we got some more homies with us. So Sydney, tell our audience tonight just a little bit. I want them to know a little bit about, you know, what your background, right? Because I mentioned you got degrees upon degrees, you know, Columbia and all this wonderful things, but a little bit about you, and then a little bit of your work that you're doing at the Institute, what that's all about.
Yeah, so it's great to be here. I also have to say, I am certain your grandchild will not become an Ohio State fan. That is even terrible. I am from Michigan. I live in New York City now, in Brooklyn. I run an organization, as Tony said, the National Black Women's Justice Institute, which is a Black women-led national nonprofit doing research, policy, and advocacy to end the systemic criminalization of Black women and girls. So it's work that I am really proud to be doing. There's no other organization like our organization doing the work that we're doing. So it's really, really exciting and really challenging work, right? To kind of pave a new path and really to center gender justice in the conversation around mass incarceration, which is definitely a racial justice issue, but we don't spend enough time or energy thinking about how Black women and girls are also directly impacted. And so that's really what the organization lifts up. I have my PhD in sociology and a master's in public health, and then another master's in law and society. It's weird to talk about degrees, but I've spent a lot of time in school trying to get myself to where I am today. And excited to be here and to talk about KaiZen, because I have always considered myself kind of like a good super saver. I'm like really good with saving money, but I'm that person who wants to put their money under the mattress. And so I have a lot of kind of anxiety about earning and not losing money, and making sure that by the time I hit retirement age, I'm comfortable, which I think is everyone's goal, but is really, I think, challenging and not always clear how you get there.
Well, you know, today there is a lot of noise, right? There's a lot of noise, especially on social media. You see a lot in terms of you know, people like these kind of get rich things, and you know, we can, you know, take your $100 and turn it into $1 million. You know, all those type of things are out there. But I think one of the things that I'd like to kind of visit on is just kind of how we got to the point where, you know, you found out about KaiZen and then decided to, you know, take advantage of it. So, you know, how did we meet? How did we get here? Right. So tell us a little bit about, you know, what your organization was looking to do and kind of how, you know, we got connected.
Yeah, so the National Black Women's Justice Institute is a small organization, but we are growing. We are now 5 people. And with the kind of guidance of our board chair, we made the decision to partner with Success by Choice to both receive some coaching around goal setting, around our financial goals and other goals in life, as well as some more practical education around what our different options are. So we covered topics like what did we cover? Oh, my favorite was budgets, because I am a person who has a fear of budgets. I don't like someone telling me what I can't spend my money on. And that to me is what a budget is. And then Tony said, well, what if you think about it as a spending plan?
Yeah.
Changed my
Where do
life.
you think I got that from, Michelle?
Light bulb went off, and I was like, yes, you
It's
mean right? It's a spending plan. It's how I want to spend my money. And I'm making some choices about some things I won't spend my money on because of how it will impact the things I do want to spend my money on. So that was really wonderful. We also talked about different kind of legacy wealth options, where we talked about, I mean, Tony knows this. This isn't really what like my brain does. like there's so much around what the options are for retirement, and they are so complex. But I have to say that I feel like you really broke them down for us in a way that made things feel really tangible. We have staff who just had babies, who are, you know, learned about what their options are for setting up their children for the future. We also did this really great thing with you around kind of the psychology each of us has around money, and the different kind of personality types.
Oh, the disc and dollars.
There's a disc and dollars, but you also did this other one where, what was it? It's based, I just know that I'm fearful of money. I'm the person who's like, I want to avoid it. I don't want to talk about it. I want to put it under the mattress. And I would rather know it's there and have it depreciate in value than put it into the market and risk loss, right? So we just covered a lot of, I think, a really valuable pieces of information, and also received some access to some self-paced learning opportunities around targeted issues that we're interested in, that we're able to go continue our learning journey. And then in addition to the individual education for staff, we have also been working with you all to think about what our organization is going to do to support the generational wealth building of our staff. So just thinking about what those different options are, how we can afford it as an organization, how do we implement it, and reminding us that it's important to think from this kind of abundance mindset, and how do we kind of continue to grow in that way, instead of, I think, often how I will say I think about money, and I think many Black people kind of grow up with this deficit scarcity mindset, and really kind of flipped it on its head, which has been really wonderful.
Well, and I think for us, and it was much like Michigan, right? So I know in Muskegon, I know Ben
My
Harbor
family is.
grew up, Ypsilanti. We are all very tied to either directly working for the automakers or maybe a supplier to the automaker. And it was really oftentimes a blue collar type of mindset. And I think in that there's no shame in it, because I mean, my God, I mean, we've all have, you know, had very, I think, privileged lives compared to some because of the auto industry and the automakers, and the fact that, you know, my dad worked in a factory for 38 years, you know, and it supplied us, right? It supplied us great living, and we weren't ever, you know, really wanting for anything. But there is a shift sometimes that happens in the mindset, because a lot of those types of jobs are gone away. And now we find ourselves, you know, in this new era that even, you know, I know that the UAW is talking about striking and some of these type of things. And
they're on strike.
They're on strike. They?
Oh yeah.
They went. Okay. I haven't watched the news, so
they're on strike.
They're on strike. Okay. And so, and then, you know, there's a lot going on in our society. So, I guess one of the things to me is it's just been a real pleasure working with the National Black Women's Justice Institute, because you guys were so receptive of the materials and the things that we were doing. And we met, I think it was monthly,
Mm-hmm.
and we started with financial psychology and then kind of worked through the budgeting and then eventually into retirement. Um, and you took advantage of the KaiZen and being able to really set yourself up for a great retirement when that time comes.
Mm-hmm.
And what's impressive to me, Sydney, and maybe you could talk to this, is that I mean a lot of times um, young people don't really think about that until later in life. But I think that you were probably a little bit more forward thinking in terms of thinking about the future. Is that just kind of how you grew up, or was it just what made you kind of? And you talked about being a super saver. I
Yeah.
mean, that's huge.
Yeah, I've always like just kind of like putting money in a little saving jar. Growing up, my mom she's retired, but she was the Superior Township treasurer for most of my life. So I've grown up with a person who has really dedicated her life to investing and growing the township's money, and making sure that the town had the resources it needed to kind of carry out its duties. So I've grown up on the one hand with a person who is very savvy around what her investing opportunities are, very good relationships with banks and all of the things. I also have a father, though, who is much more skeptical, and he is definitely the person that when he passes, we need to look throughout the house to find where the money is hidden. And so I've kind of grown up with this kind of both of these mindsets around money, which have really just influenced me generally, where when I have it and there's something I want, I want to be in a position where I'm able to um, afford the things that I want. And then I'm also like terribly afraid of spending it sometimes. But as far as retirement goes, um, I think it actually happened at work, where one of my earlier jobs, I wasn't thinking about retirement, but they had a kind of matched retirement plan. And I was hitting against the deadline to get the match or something. I can't remember like the technicalities about it, but the HR person actually came up to me and was like, "Hey, um, for you to be able to get the total amount of the match possible, you need to start putting some money away into your retirement plan." And that actually is what got me started. And I think another job was like, "Hey, if you start $50 a month for the rest of your life and you're like 30, think about what that will be over time." And so I think actually the retirement savings has come from the different kinds of resources that have been available at the employers that I've worked at in the past. And that's been really helpful, which is why I really want our organization to be able to do that for folks, because it's not always the education that you're getting at home or from your friends. And maybe you do hear about it, right? Like my parents talk about retirement and drawing down on their retirement, but what your options are and how you set yourself up for that is not always a conversation that we're exposed to. What I've learned from you all is there are many different ways to do this outside of the traditional kind of retirement plans that might be available to you at work.
Well, and I think that's the thing that's huge is just having the education and having to know what resources are out there, and then being able to take advantage of those resources, learn, do your due diligence, and then I think the impressive thing with you is that you took action, right? Because so often we talk to people, and whether we're talking about retirement or we're talking about their books, Michelle, or we're talking about their business, taking their business to the next level, but they don't take action.
Right.
And And that's probably, something that I think that you've done maybe throughout your career. I mean, you mentioned, a couple masters and, PhD. I mean, people don't do that stuff without any ambition. I mean, I know, um, I look at my wife who's getting her master's, and Michelle's got masters, and I'm like, man, y'all go. Right? So, um, because it's a big commitment. It's a big commitment. And when you take that action and going after your goals, I mean, that it's only great things that could happen for that. So
I will say that Michelle, you said this. I just realized that your name is Michelle Mitchell. Sorry, just like very similar. That Tony's great about answering questions, which I think made it easier to take action, because I felt like I could ask all of the questions, like no matter how, in my opinion, dumb they were, like Tony had an answer, and he didn't make me feel like, why would you ask that question?
Yeah.
He was so eager and excited to answer the question and to kind of nerd out around the kind of intricacies that
nerd out.
Like, hey,
when he's showing, like, talking about like the index and what it means, and I think he likes and enjoys answering those questions, right? And that's really helpful. And making me feel
the first time I've ever been called a nerd, and it sounded good, right?
I know, right?
You are in the presence of a nerd, right? And so, but just you just know this in and out, right? Through and through. And so it made it easy to make that decision, because I just felt like I was getting all of the information. And I think I mentioned this to you, that a younger version of me had like a financial advisor who tried to set me up with life insurance as a retirement plan type, and I didn't understand what he was saying. And it just didn't make sense to me. And I ended up not going through that process because
you didn't
understand. That plus the fact that it was so invasive, and the idea of some random person coming to my house to take my blood just did not make sense. But maybe if I'd had more information.
You did tell me about that part. It's like, some random person coming to my house and just going to drop. It's like, that just didn't sit well, right?
Where are you taking my blood?
Yeah, it's just man came into my house, and we went through the whole process, and then he was like, I'm going to take your blood. And I was like, no, we're done. This isn't going to work. But maybe I would have made a different decision if I understood the whole process better. But I think most importantly, Tony, you just answered all of the questions so that I felt like I could make an informed decision. And I don't think we get that enough, right? And that really keeps us from making the decisions that are really going to set us up well in the future, because we don't know, and we don't have someone who's willing to take the time to explain it.
And the thing that we're always hoping to create is this safe environment where people feel like they can ask questions. And that's the environment I thrive in. I love when people ask questions. I mean,
me too.
So when people ask you questions, that you're delivering the information that they really need. Because otherwise, we prepare a presentation and we prepare it, and we do our best to say, okay, we know these are some key points that people need to know. But when the questions come, we know that we're getting it right to what the audience wants to hear and what they need to hear, so that they get that value.
Yeah.
And so
when they ask questions, they're also internalizing the information, and trying to apply their own life to this new information that they're hearing as well.
Right. And that's how we get the best understanding, right?
Yep.
Is when we can ask questions, and we can, formulate those questions and ask back, those type of things. So I actually love it. I mean, I get every time we had those meetings, it was great. It was always good. As a matter of fact, one time actually, I was at Top Golf with Michelle's husband, Tony. Her husband's name Tony too. So I was there with him, and then I went into a conference room and did our meeting that we had, And so it's always been fun. And, I just want to encourage, as you guys are here in Sydney, and if you're part of an organization, a church or small business or nonprofit, if you think that you would like to get more information about how we can help you and help your employees have these breakthroughs, because that's what's so awesome is when you see the breakthroughs happen, that by all means reach out to us. You can email Tony at the Real Money Coach. Dante will scroll the appointment link. You can go TonyJacksonAppointment.com, iPadAppointment.com. They all go to the same calendar, and we can have those type of conversations that that maybe we could bring to your organization. And it's been such a great experience with you all. And so love to do more of that with different groups, because that's how we're going to get there. That's how we're going to get to the next level, is when we start to break down those barriers and that type of thing. And
Tony, you did it for my organization.
Yeah.
My little tiny organization.
Right. And those are the things too that a lot of I don't know, a lot of people don't want to work with 5 or 6 people. They don't want to work with the small groups. But I think the small groups are wonderful, because you can have an impact, and you can have that personal one-on-one service, and people can ask questions and what have you. So that's pretty awesome. So I want to shift a little bit, and we got that scrolling on how you can schedule appointment. But I want to shift a little bit because of the work that you do. And I think we owe it tonight to at least talk about that. So if I were to ask Dr. Sydney tonight, if you had a message for Black women, little Black girls, in terms of the work that you do, what message would you want them to hear tonight?
So I think my message and I don't know, my personal mission. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you heard that. New York City, I apologize.
But you go from Ipsy to New York City. It's basically the same, right?
Basically, right? I think for me, the message that I want little Black girls to walk away from, or walk away with, given the work that I do, is that when I first started doing this work as a researcher, I am so sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So when I first started doing this work as a researcher in a criminal justice space, I was pretty much the only one of the few Black people and the only Black woman. And I never felt like the questions that I felt like were important, and the people who mean so much to me and my motivations for doing the work really aligned with the organization that I worked at. And I didn't really feel like I belonged there. And so I think the message that I have for Black girls who are interested in doing this work, or any kind of work, is that you can do whatever you want, and you belong in every space, whether you feel like you do or not. Any place you want to be is a place that you belong in. And I think that's just really important, because there are so many times when doing this work that I felt very alone, and like, why am I doing this? No one cares about Black people or Black women, and I'm really alone in this. But now I'm in a place where, I tell folks I'm living out my dream. I never thought an organization like this could exist. And now I'm leading that organization, which is the space that I've always wanted for me and other Black women who want to do this work and have not found the spaces that really allow them to carry out the research and evaluation and the policy that is most important to them and the communities that they belong to.
That's awesome. So now I want to kind of bring this around to, because that's kind of the why, and what the crux of what you do, what you guys deliver. What is it like to be the executive director? Because you're running a business. I mean, your passion is the justice, right? And the institute, and changing policy and all this. But what are the challenges of being a executive um, as well?
Oh, well. Um, this is a 5-person organization, and when I started, I was the only full-time person, and we had a few part-time people. And so much of my executive director journey has been around kind of formalizing the operations, really kind of clarifying the vision and strategy, and growing the team. And that is a lot to do when you are a super small organization. It has, really impacted me on a personal level. Um, Definitely in the beginning, I had difficulty sleeping because I just couldn't turn off my brain. But there's just a lot when you are an executive director, especially a new one like I was, and I still consider myself to be new, that you have to learn while doing. Uh, I,
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that there are many other jobs that I feel like don't have a playbook, that are um, right there for you. And a lot of it is learning by doing. And I feel very fortunate to be in the company of such incredible women who are leading this work. My incredible board chair is on today, so it's really wonderful. But it's a lot, right? And I think especially given the kind of work that we do, there's this added pressure to get it right. Um, and so that's really what I'm thinking about on a day-to-day basis, is how do we get it right? How do we grow the team, and how do we working, right? They want to come back. They feel like it fills their cup, right? And that's really important. But it's kind of always jumping from one thing to the next. I'm doing the best that I can.
Well, thank you for answering my question. I didn't give you any. Well, and then we kind of do this organic. I wasn't planning on asking those things, but I didn't want the opportunity, because I think the work that you do is so important. I didn't want this opportunity for you to come on the show and we talk about, what we do as far as the Real Money Coach, and what we did in terms of team success by choice, and the work that we did with your group, without having an opportunity to talk about the importance of the work that you do. And we're just glad that we could be a part of that in terms of behind the scenes and helping you all, do what we do, so that you can have the space and freedom to do what you do. And I think that's really the key, is everyone, playing their part, their role, and all of this. And so, and I know that, Michelle is such a phenomenal advocate for women, women businesses, women owned, women led businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just been a pleasure to have you on tonight, and to share some of your experiences, off the cuff, unprepared,
Yeah,
unscripted, right?
very.
Um, but I think it's when it's in your heart and it's your passion, it definitely comes through. And so, I mean, we got people in Ohio, we got our New Jersey, people all over. Dr. Monique, obviously, it said you've done a phenomenal job. And so it's just kind of great to touch a lot of different lives. And so, thank you for what you're doing, Michelle. What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think I don't know you very well, but just from this conversation, like, you are leading the organization by example.
Mm,
Like, you are leading by example. And that's what we need in our community, is for leaders really to step up and lead by example so that others can follow in our footsteps. Because if we don't see us in spaces, we don't know that we can achieve those things.
Yeah.
So just by you stepping up saying, you know, I'll share my personal experience and testimony, I think it lends itself to bringing others up along with us, you know. So overall we make a better, well, more educated community, you know, that we are building generational wealth, you know, look step by step. And to impact women in that way. Like, I'm so passionate about financial literacy, but in women and helping them become more empowered and confident in the decisions that they make is like, it's hard for me to think of something else. Like you said, it's hard to go to sleep at night because
Right.
it's such a passion and it drives me so hard that, you know, it's really hard to put it down. And it's just a calling. Like, and I
Well,
see that
that's it right there, Michelle. You hit it. It's
it's
a calling.
it's
I
a
mean,
calling.
the work we do is not. It's not
Mm-mm.
work. It's a calling. And when you're
It's a calling.
calling in your work and your career, and your
Mhm.
calling and your career come together, it's a
Mhm.
very powerful combination. We
So
call it
powerful.
the
It
three
really is.
calling, career. The combination of those are
Yeah.
pretty powerful.
Yeah.
You know, the word that was coming to my mind as we were talking about this was trailblazer.
Mhm.
Trailblazer. And how, you know, Sydney, you're a trailblazer. Michelle, you're a
Yeah.
trailblazer. I think in some regards, I'm a trailblazer. And so,
Mhm.
and what we are doing, and you said something that was very powerful, Michelle, is that when you were talking in particular about women, but when they see you all in places, they can say, I can do that too.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
exactly.
can do that too.
Mhm.
You know, and it doesn't have to be always the entertainment.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things is this conversation with Boyce Watkins, and you're talking about the he's very passionate about little boys, right? And it
Mhm.
makes sense, right? You know, men should be passionate about men,
Yep.
you know, women passionate about women. We need all that. And
Mhm.
one of the things he was talking about is that this pressure that little black boys have in terms of, you know, wanting to be a pro athlete, right?
Mhm.
And all these type of things. And unfortunately, it's unfortunate in some ways, it's fortunate in others, but
Mhm.
unfortunately, little girls don't have that same thing because
Yes.
we know that in the WNBA players don't get paid the same
Mhm.
level, right? We know even the women's soccer, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. So they don't have that sports figure that is. They have the entertainment, the Beyonces and all those, but they don't
Mhm.
have that plus the sports thing to say, oh, that's what I want to be. And
Yeah.
sometimes that might not be a bad thing because then you don't get derailed by these other types of images out there, and we can kind of focus on. And maybe that's why women are doing so well right now, you know, especially
Yeah.
black women. And as
Mhm.
well as as well as we're doing as a people, and as far as we've come, we still have a long way to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so our work has been great, but it's not done.
Yes.
It's not done. And so hopefully there'll be some little girl that's watching this, some little boy that's watching this, and say, you know, I'm going to run that. I'm going to run that trail. I'm going to do
Mhm.
that. I'm going to be there. That when Sydney retires and
Mhm.
lives on an island with a big umbrella in it, and she's getting her check from KaiZen every month, because
Yes.
I'm gonna pick up the baton where she left off.
Right.
I'm gonna run with it, and so, you know, those are just wonderful thoughts, and I feel real good about the show tonight because I think that there's been a message there, not only just about the Kaizen, because the Kaizen is very, very powerful. And if y'all don't know, y'all need to go to TonyJacksonKaizen.com. You need to check it out, and you need to get with me so that we can talk about it, how it might fit for you. It doesn't fit for everyone. It's not for everyone. Not
Right.
for everyone, okay? But um, but you need to owe it to yourself to find out if it's a fit for you. But I feel real good about not only did we deliver that message here in Life Insurance Awareness Month, but I think we delivered something even more powerful than that. And so I feel real good about it.
Good.
Sydney, you feel good about it?
Of course I feel good. I am with, two other people from Michigan talking about how to save for the future and how wonderful it feels when your career and your passion combine. It's a special feeling, and not all of us are able to access it. And it is something though that I want for everyone, right? Because I think about how I felt and where I was in my career when I didn't have that. And every day was hard. Everyone was annoying. and it just made it really difficult to get through, especially when you know that there's more that you can do and more that you want, and you're not sure how to get that. And I am, forever grateful for this opportunity, because I've said this, there's no other organization like our organization doing what we're doing. And that is just special, because I would probably be wasting away somewhere, probably doing great work, but not feeling as fulfilled and connected to the mission and the vision. And I am so grateful to that, for that feeling. And I want that for other folks. So if you want to do research and you care about Black women and want to end mass incarceration, the National Black Women's Justice Institute is for you. Give me a call.
Yay.
Okay, Sydney. Now, how do they get in contact with you? And actually, I was talking to a young lady today, and she's doing research for Michigan State. She's doing research.
I don't know about that though.
Yeah, I hear you.
Stop right there.
Yeah, maybe, but she's from Flint, so I think she's from Flint. So I don't know. But anyway, I was just talking to her about what her work was, and she's more into the environmental issues and how they impact our community. Obviously there's some passion there because of the Flint water crisis, Jackson, Mississippi water crisis. Right here in North Carolina, we have Camp Lejeune, and all these type of things, and talking about. And then she got into talking about some other organizations that she was in that's looking at equality and justice and racial justice and all that. I was like, it was so passionate about it. But anyway, so if someone is listening tonight and they want to, somehow get involved. I mean, maybe there's job openings, maybe there's other ways that they can get involved in what you're doing. How would they reach out? How would they contact the organization if that's a desire?
Well, you can reach me by email. It is smckinney@nbwji. Hopefully that'll get into the chat if this is something that you're interested in. I also encourage you to check out our website, which is www.nbwji.org, to learn about our work. I also think
if you could scroll those two on the screen, it'd be awesome if you can grab that. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. And then I was just going to say, I also think it's great and important to find people. You might not know them, but find people who are doing the thing that you think you want to do and check out how they got there. That's one of the things I did when I was younger. And it's truthfully the only reason why I persisted through my PhD program, because I hated every second of it. And being able to, but I understood I needed it, right? And if I didn't have it, I wouldn't be here. And so sometimes you have to see other people's journeys to figure out how to craft your own. And so I really would recommend folks do that if you're not sure what path you need to begin on. But you could also reach out to me. I'm happy to chit chat with you about how you get to where you want to go. I love that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for taking time. Lisa Connolly Fonda says she concurs with you, lot of great comments that have been, expressed in the chat as we went. And so I think people enjoyed it. I do want to, as we prepare to end the show for this evening, I want to remind people of the webinar on Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And that is GoFundMe Ain't Life Insurance. That's the catchy title, but we go over so much more than that. And you can register for that at TonyJacksonWebinar.com. And it's for everybody. It's something for everyone in there. Come with your questions. Come with things that you want answered. Again, that's where the power comes in. So we'll make sure you do that. You'll see more of that on social media and those type of things as well. And also just want to remind people that you can schedule an appointment with me. We can talk about how we can do what we're doing for Sydney's organization, for your organization. There's the flyer. There's the QR code that takes you directly to the registration link as well. And so, again, that is going to be on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And so come be a part of the conversation. And that's what we want. We want it to be a conversation like the three of us had tonight. This open conversation, questions that can be answered. There is no dumb question. There is no question. Just come and be a part of it. And that's how we grow this community organically, by having these type of open conversations that are so important. So with that, everyone, have a wonderful evening. Make sure you go back to the podcast and check it out for last week. You'll hear some more from Dr. Sydney McKinney in there, as well as the two millennials that were talking about life insurance. And we'll see you right here next week. I have a treat for you in terms of another guest, gentleman that was in one of our classes, one of the larger classes, one of the larger church. The Park Church, I think we had maybe 130 people in that class.
Wow.
A little bit of the opposite, right? So we had the small group with Sydney, and then he's going to come in and talk about the impact in terms of the very large class that we were doing at the Park Church and the impact that it had on his own brother. So with that, have a great night. Love you all. Take care. And thank you for being part of the Real Money Coach family. Take care.
Have a good night.